Success does not come gently. It does not arrive in the night like a thief carrying treasures to your doorstep. It must be seized, claimed, and paid for in advance, with sweat, with hours, with patience, with sacrifice. Discipline is the toll you must pay to cross the bridge between where you are and where you dream of being. And if you refuse to pay, the bridge collapses beneath your feet. Look at the great titans of history. Edison worked through thousands of failed experiments in pursuit of a single light. Carnegie rose from a penniless immigrant boy to the steel king of America, not because of luck, but because discipline carved every action of his life into a blade sharp enough to cut through limitation. Lincoln spent years in defeat before his name became eternal, and Walt Disney endured bankruptcy, rejection, and ridicule before the world ever knew his mouse. These men were not superhuman, they were disciplined, and discipline is the most powerful force an ordinary person can harness to achieve extraordinary results. Discipline is not glamorous, it doesn't sparkle like motivation, it doesn't sing like inspiration. Discipline is quiet, often invisible. It lives in the early mornings when no one is watching. It lives in the long nights when the body aches but the work is unfinished. Discipline is choosing growth over comfort, truth over excuses, long-term gain over immediate pleasure. It is a knife that cuts away distraction, leaving only the core of your purpose. Ask yourself, what are you willing to give up? Because success will ask for payment. It will ask for late nights when you want to sleep, for sacrifices when you want indulgence, for silence when you crave applause. The world whispers lies of instant gratification, but discipline teaches you the truth. Nothing worth holding is ever earned cheaply. Every reward is rented, and the rent is due every single day. Discipline begins in the mind. You cannot govern your actions until you govern your thoughts. If the mind is a battlefield, discipline is the general who directs the troops, who refuses surrender, who calls for one more march when others cry for retreat. Without it, your thoughts scatter like frightened soldiers, and the enemy, fear, doubt, laziness, takes your fortress. Every human being has within them two selves. One is weak, eager for shortcuts, begging for comfort, content to drift. The other is strong, demanding progress, hungry for excellence, willing to suffer for greatness. Discipline decides which self you allow to lead your life. Do you let the weaker self drive you into mediocrity? Or do you put the stronger self behind the wheel? Belief is the fire, discipline is the fuel. Belief alone burns out quickly. It excites, it ignites, but without discipline, it becomes ashes of broken promises. Edison did not simply believe in the light bulb, he disciplined himself to endure thousands of failed attempts until that belief was crystallized into reality. Henry Ford did not just believe in affordable automobiles, he disciplined himself to work relentlessly until the impossible became the inevitable. To discipline your mind is to train it like a wild horse. At first it resists, it bucks, it throws you off. But if you persist, if you grip tightly, if you climb back on every time, eventually the horse obeys. Then instead of dragging you into chaos, it carries you into destiny. Discipline without vision is wasted effort. You cannot march blindly and expect to arrive at greatness. You must know where you are going and why. Vision is the North Star that keeps your discipline aligned. It is the burning image of your future so vivid that it pulls you through suffering like a rope tied around your soul. Think of Disney sketching a mouse when the world mocked him. Think of Steve Jobs envisioning technology that no one else could see. Think of Andrew Carnegie as a boy in a factory, imagining steel empires while his hands bled on the loom. Vision gave their discipline direction. Without it, their sacrifices would have been meaningless. Discipline transforms vision into flesh. Anyone can dream. Dreams float like clouds. But discipline condenses them into rain that nourishes reality. A disciplined life is a series of small, deliberate choices aligned with a larger destiny. Waking early. Reading when others waste time, saving when others spend, building when others rest. These are not random acts. They are the bricks laid on the path toward your vision. But clarity must be ruthless. To be disciplined is to cut away what does not serve the vision. The world will tempt you with detours, distractions, and applause for mediocrity. But if your vision is clear, you will not be swayed. You will walk the narrow road alone, if necessary, because you know where it leads. Purpose fuels the fire that discipline tends. Without purpose, discipline feels like punishment. With purpose, it feels like sacred devotion. You will only endure sacrifice when you know it is tied to something greater than yourself. The Roman gladiators fought for survival. The Wright brothers sacrificed years of obscurity for the chance to touch the sky. Martin Luther King Jr. sacrificed comfort, safety, even his life, for the vision of justice. Sacrifice is not loss, it is exchange. You give up what is small to gain what is great. You surrender what is temporary to build what is eternal. Discipline demands sacrifice because success is built on trade-offs. You cannot keep everything. You cannot chase every desire. If you choose excellence, you must reject ease. If you choose mastery, you must reject mediocrity. If you choose greatness, you must reject the approval of the crowd. Ask yourself, what are you willing to give up to fulfill your purpose? Are you willing to sacrifice the endless scroll of distraction, the fleeting comfort of laziness, the shallow praise of fitting in? Because every second you spend indulging in them is stolen from the empire you could be building. Habits and daily discipline. Discipline is not a single act of willpower. It is the shaping of daily habits that carve your destiny like a sculptor chiseling stone. One choice means little. One workout does not make you strong. One study session does not make you wise. But repeated disciplined actions, stacked day after day, become the architecture of your future. Think of Benjamin Franklin, who wrote out daily disciplines to track his virtues. Think of athletes who rise before the sun to practice in silence while the world still sleeps. They do not wait for motivation because they know motivation is a guest that arrives late and leaves early. Discipline is the host that stays no matter the hour. Your habits reveal your destiny. Show me how you spend your mornings and I will show you your future. Show me how you spend your evenings and I will show you what your dreams are worth. Success is never built in a single dramatic leap. It is the accumulation of small disciplined steps taken consistently, even when no one is watching. Most people wait for the right time, the perfect moment, the surge of inspiration. But the disciplined know that the right time is always now. They rise not because they feel like it, but because their vision demands it. They train not because it is easy, but because their future self is watching. They work when the body is tired, when the mind is restless, when the crowd has quit. That is why they win. The body follows the mind, and the mind follows habit. Build strong habits, and discipline becomes natural. Build weak habits, and mediocrity becomes inevitable. You are always training for something. The only question is, are you training for success, or are you training for failure? Resilience and endurance. Discipline is most tested in the fire of adversity. Anyone can stay disciplined when things are easy, when progress is smooth, when applause is loud. True discipline is revealed when you are alone in the dark, when the world turns its back, when failure knocks at your door again and again. Thomas Edison faced thousands of failures before the light bulb shined. Colonel Sanders faced rejection after rejection before his recipe found a home. Abraham Lincoln lost elections, faced heartbreak, endured ridicule, and yet remained disciplined in his pursuit of a greater vision. They did not break, because discipline made them resilient. Resilience is the ability to rise again, not because you are unbreakable, but because you refuse to stay broken. Discipline whispers, one more try, one more step, one more day. Success belongs not to the fastest, but to the one who never stops moving forward. When storms come, and they will, discipline is the anchor. It keeps you steady when others drift away. It is the voice that says, this pain is temporary, but my purpose is eternal. Discipline turns obstacles into fuel, setbacks into lessons, defeats into stepping stones. Without it, adversity crushes you. With it, adversity sharpens you. Understand this. Resilience is not passive endurance. It is active persistence. It is rising with fire in your chest, even after you have been knocked to the ground 100 times. It is looking at failure and saying, you may delay me, but you will not define me. Discipline is not rigidity. It is not stubbornly clinging to one way of doing things. True discipline carries adaptability within it, because the disciplined mind knows that growth requires evolution. The world changes, markets shift, opportunities transform. The disciplined adjust without losing their vision. Henry Ford disciplined himself to mass-produce automobiles, but when the Model T became outdated, he nearly lost his empire because he resisted change. On the other hand, innovators like Jobs and Musk stayed disciplined not just in action, but in learning, in adjusting, in staying students of the future. That is why their visions expanded beyond imagination. To be disciplined is to study, to refine, to evolve. It is to admit when you are wrong, to pivot when the road is blocked, to find a new path without abandoning the destination. Adaptability without discipline is chaos. Discipline without adaptability is stagnation. Together they are unstoppable. Discipline in growth means choosing learning over pride, reading when others gossip, listening when others boast, seeking mentors instead of applause. It is humbling yourself to be taught, even after you've succeeded, because the moment you stop growing, you begin dying. Remember, a tree that refuses to bend breaks in the storm. A disciplined life is rooted in unshakable vision, but flexible in strategy. You are not a prisoner of one path. You are a master of persistence, willing to adjust your sails while never losing sight of the shore. Action and consistency. Discipline without action is a loaded cannon that never fires. The world does not reward intentions, it rewards execution. You can dream, you can plan, you can visualize, but if you do not act, you will die with your song still inside you. Action is the heartbeat of discipline. It is what separates the talkers from the doers, the planners from the builders, the dreamers from the achievers. The disciplined act when others hesitate. They act when conditions are not perfect, when the path is unclear, when the resources are incomplete. Because they know that action creates momentum, and momentum creates miracles. Every great empire was built one brick at a time. The Great Wall of China, the pyramids of Egypt, the skyscrapers of New York. Each began not with a grand spectacle, but with one disciplined action, repeated relentlessly. Consistency is the secret compound interest of success. One action, insignificant today, becomes monumental tomorrow if repeated without fail. Do not underestimate the power of small, daily victories. Waking up early, honoring your word, finishing what you start. These are not minor details. They are the training ground of greatness. For if you cannot master the small, how will you ever command the great? The undisciplined wait for motivation. The disciplined create progress. Action first, emotion later. You do not need to feel ready, you need only to move. Because once you move, discipline takes the wheel, and progress becomes inevitable. Gratitude and inner power. Discipline is not only about sacrifice and struggle, it is also about gratitude. For gratitude is what transforms discipline from a burden into a blessing. To be disciplined is to recognize that every day you are alive is an opportunity to build, to learn, to contribute, to move closer to your vision. When you rise early, be grateful you have another sunrise to chase your purpose. When you work late into the night, be grateful you have a mind and body capable of endurance. When you face obstacles, be grateful, for they sharpen your character like fire-tempered steel. Gratitude is the lens that turns struggle into strength. Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men in history, said that his greatest fortune was not money, but the people and lessons he gathered along the way. Edison, after his laboratory burned to the ground, thanked fate for giving him the chance to start anew without the weight of old mistakes. Gratitude transforms setbacks into stepping stones, and discipline makes sure you keep climbing. When gratitude lives in your heart, discipline becomes less about what you give up and more about what you are building. You stop seeing sacrifice as loss and start seeing it as investment. You understand that every hour of work, every moment of self-denial, every disciplined choice is not robbing you, it is enriching you. And so the truth stands before you like a mountain. The power of discipline is the price of greatness, and sacrifice is the currency of success. You cannot cheat it. You cannot bypass it. You cannot borrow your way into it. You must pay the full price, with your time, your energy, your focus, your persistence. The question is not whether discipline works. History has already answered that. The question is whether you will work with it, whether you will rise when comfort calls you back to bed, whether you will act when fear begs you to hesitate, whether you will sacrifice when pleasure whispers in your ear. Discipline is not chains around your wrists. It is wings on your back. It is the force that lifts you above mediocrity, that carries you beyond excuses, that makes the impossible bend to your will. Without it, you remain trapped in the prison of what might have been. With it, you become the master of what will be. So choose today. Choose to be the one who endures, who acts, who sacrifices, who grows. Choose to be the one who takes the pain of discipline over the pain of regret. Choose to be the one who writes their name in history not with ink, but with sweat, with persistence, with relentless devotion. Because in the end, success is not granted, it is conquered, and discipline is the sword.